There is no doubt about it. The Shay is indeed a very unique locomotive. She has affectionately been described as looking somewhat like that of a sewing machine on wheels, going berserk. And this Shay right here looks like one that was built in the early 1910s. Yet a fairly modern locomotive. She features a wagon top boiler and steel cab. The Shay locomotive was built for logging in the mountains. And what it lacks in speed, beauty, and elegance, it makes up for it with traction. Where the locomotive gets its name was by its inventor, Ephraim Shay. The first Shay locomotive was built in the 1870s, and over the years, Shay went to work on improving his machine. Over the years, the Lima Locomotive Works gained the patents to build the Shay locomotive. Meadow River number 7 is one of over 2,000 Shays built. And even though 2,000 of these were made, most of the general public has never seen one. The Shay was the most popular geared steam locomotive of the big three that were made. The competitors, the Climax, and the Heisler, power is transferred from an upright set of cylinders located on the right-hand side, also known as the engineer side of the locomotive. The pistons then come down and turn a crankshaft that runs the length of the locomotive. The crankshaft goes through wheel bogies and turns the wheels through bevel gears. Every wheel becomes a drive wheel, and through this, the Shay locomotive gains its power. At first, the Shay may seem like a typical steam locomotive, but once you look carefully, you will notice it's a completely different entity. As you notice, the boiler of a normal steam engine is centered smack dab, whereas this is offset, an offset boiler to the left-hand side to counterbalance the weight of the cylinders. On the left-hand side, you can see an exposed firebox, enclosed wheel sets, and a steam jam air brake. The steam jam air brake uses leftover boiler pressure to power the main air cylinder for the engine brake. Steam then comes right from a lever that is the main shutoff valve. That shutoff valve literally has steam rushing down a pipe, which then powers the steam jam, and the steam jam then applies the brakes for the independent braking system on the steam engine. A lot of Shays were built of that, but a lot of them were later on converted to air brakes. The reason being is the steam jam was too much maintenance and was not really efficient, and was just a lot of work. The Meadow River number 7, which ran up in West Virginia, never used a steam jam. It always used air brakes, along with her sisters. Shay number 7 is an example of a classic 1920s design. This engine is built with a spark arresting cinder catcher balloon smokestack. And what this does is to prevent sparks from occurring out of a wood burning or coal burning engine. The balloon filters out anything that would be cause hazard to fire, and would try to filter that out as much as possible so nothing would harm the forest or the environment. Meadow River number 7 is a 70-ton Shay geared logging steam locomotive and ran from 1920 until 1970. The engine was then caught in a roundhouse fire and hasn't run since then. Prior to the roundhouse fire, Shay number 7 came down with boiler problems, which required to have the front half of her boiler removed. The Cass Scenic Railroad up in West Virginia, a prestigious tourist operation, restores and operates many Shays, Heislers, and Climax locomotives. Shay number 7 was their pride and joy, until she fell ill with boiler problems. The removal of the front boiler has caused problems, and she has sat dead on the deadline ever since she came out of the fire. However, there is hope for Shay number 7. Graham County 1926 is similar Shay locomotive design, is literally very far gone to rebuild. Cass Scenic Railroad bought her in hopes of using her parts to bring number 7 back to life. Number 7 is a hard-working locomotive. These engines, such as number 7, negotiate the tightest curves, go up the steepest grades, and haul heavy tonnage through gigantic coastal forests throughout the United States. Very few are in operation today. You can see quite a number of these in museums sitting on static display, but it's a treat if you could see one in operation on a tourist railroad. The Cass Scenic Railroad is one of 2 logging railroads that uses Shay-geared steam locomotives on a daily basis. The Roaring Camps and Big Trees Narrow Gauge Steam Railroad in Felton, California, is the other. The Yosemite Mountain Sugar Pine Railroad, located outside of Yosemite National Park, runs Shay locomotives from the spring till fall months. Okay, that was not the best spiel. But hey, I try. Well, anyway, yeah. That was sort of a spiel on number 7. I did add a wood load to her fuel bunker so to match her balloon stack. and it looks pretty good. Yeah, Shay number 7 here is an example of many Shay engines that were built. Yeah, it is indeed, no doubt, a really awesome locomotive. And seeing one is really spectacular. And also just by hearing it. Just the sound and the pounding of the pistons sounds like the engine is going over 50 miles an hour when she is barely doing 10. And 10 was literally flying. For a Shay, that is. They're very smooth riding engines and were very strong. If you want to pull the whole world behind you, a Shay geared logging steam engine was the engine of choice. Yeah, it's really neat to see all the crankshaft and everything work, and how it bends as it goes around. It's a really sharp curve. It's like a 4-foot radius curve. Yeah, a Shay was meant to go around this kind of curve. All these engines were operated back in the day of the logging era. They were run pretty fast, they were run pretty hard, they worked hard. They had their problems. Many were derailed. And many were scrapped later on. However, Shays create excitement no matter where they go. And let's hope that Meadow River Lumber Company number 7 can return to steam and be with us once again. Well, that's it for now on number 7. And for Shay engines. Chris9017 out.